welcome anyone who is joining us right now. My name is Prizzilla. I'm a surrogate ambassador with Hawaii Surrogacy Center. I was a surrogate with Hawaii Surrogacy Center in 2019, and I had the baby in 2020. I wanted to introduce Ashley, our newest surrogate ambassador, and she was actually a surrogate this past year. I believe she gave birth in November of 2020, if that's correct. And we just wanted to talk about our experiences and mostly ask her about her personal experiences as a surrogate with us, because most of the videos we've done and the Q&As we've done are with me, and we just need a different perspective. So Ashley, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Ashley. I actually had Jaden in October, so close enough. It was at the end of October. And yeah, he was my first surrogate, and I'm looking to do another one this year. We'll see how that goes.
That's exciting. I wish. I just could not put my body through it again.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. I'm kind of at the point where I'm just getting old enough to where I'm ready to be normal. But then I'm like, oh, I'm almost 40. I better maybe do this now and get it done. I don't know.
No, you're smart, because a lot of people are discouraged when they're like, oh, I'm almost 40. And I'm like, the cutoff's 40, you still have time. And yeah. If I felt like I had a few more pregnancies in me, I would do the same. But I'm just glad I got at least one in, because I'm done with kids. Okay, so I gathered a bunch of questions from videos I've done in the past and questions I've been asked. And I'm like, I had so many people ask these same questions. So I thought we would address them all here for Ashley. The first question is, how did you learn that surrogacy was a possibility for you? And how did it lead you to finding Hawaii Surrogacy?
Actually, funny enough, back when I was probably 19 or 20, it was a decade. I mean, it was a long time ago, over a decade ago. A family member of mine that lived in Greece, they couldn't have children of their own. They had gone through lots of miscarriages and things like that. And it was something that I didn't really know anything about. I had just heard, I don't even know where I heard of it, honestly, way back then. And I thought about it doing back then, and it just didn't work out. They ended up, I think they ended up adopting kids or something later on, and it wasn't a big deal, or it wasn't something that was known really in Greece at that time. I mean, not that it's not really legal in a lot of countries as it is. So it just wasn't something that they pursued, and it was probably good back then because I was really young. And then later on, when we moved here to Hawaii, I was staying at home, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I should look into this again, kind of see where it's at. And I happened to just Google, actually prior to Googling for a surrogacy here in Hawaii, an ad popped up on my Facebook that was for a different surrogacy agency in California. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, I guess yeah, maybe I should look into it. And then I'm like, maybe I'd rather have something here, an actual agency here, that would I'd be able to work with a little bit closer with. And yeah, I Googled them, and they just had Hawaii Surrogacy just happened to be here, and it just happened to work out how it did.
That's awesome. I was going to ask, when you first thought about doing surrogacy and you said you were younger, did you already have your oldest daughter?
Yeah, she was already, I think she was 2 or 3 already. Cause I had her when I was 17. So I'd already had McKenna. And it just, I was good at being, weirdly enough, that young, I was good at being pregnant. So something I could do to help.
Yeah, I didn't get pregnant super young, but I got pregnant before I was 21. And it was just we felt like it was kind of a one-time thing, and I got pregnant. So even though I didn't plan to have a bunch of kids, I always felt like, oh, I'm fertile. Maybe I should do something with this.
Yeah, that's, I would say that would be me too.
Okay. So, well, you obviously mentioned that you wanted to pursue surrogacy when you were younger. So we'll skip past that question. Was your husband supportive of you wanting to become a surrogate?
Yeah, Kirk was really supportive. So he's just one of those husbands who he's just supportive of anything. I'll be like, hey, I really want to do this. And he'll be like, okay, whatever you want to do. It's not I didn't have to we didn't really have any discussion. And I'm a fly by the seat of my pants type of person, where once I decide something, that's kind of like it. Like, there is no going back. There is no like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. It was like, hey, I'm going to apply for this and I'm just going to do it. And this is what we're going to do. And he's like, yeah, sure. It's your body, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, okay, fine. Well, you got to put up with me. And he's like, yeah, well, it wouldn't be the first time. So, yeah, I mean, he had like really nothing to say like negative about it at all.
That's the best kind of partner to have, just because it's just like, okay, I have all the time in the world for you and me to plan things together, but like there's only this small little pocket where I can do what I need to be, where I can do what I want to do with my body. And it's just like my husband was the same way. He's like, oh, I miss you pregnant. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to have a baby though. So then when surrogacy came up, he was just like, okay, like I told him about it after the fact. I'm like, oh yeah, I inquired about being a surrogate. And he's like, were we not going to talk about it? I was like, well, you said you like me being pregnant. I didn't think I have to talk about it with you. But during your surrogacy journey, was your husband the one to give you injections, or did you figure that out on your own?
I pretty much figured them out on my own. There was a brief period. Oh gosh, it was probably, I think I was already pregnant, but there was a brief period there, like kind of toward the end of my shots where we had, because I can only stick myself on one side. I've tried the other before, and then I hit a vein and I'm like, oh God, okay, I don't want to do that again. So there was a brief period where he had to start helping me on the other side because I developed like kind of like a lump.
Oh yeah.
From constantly sticking myself, no matter how much I rubbed it or heating pad or what have you, it would not go away. So he had to start helping at some point, but otherwise I did everything myself. He didn't really.
I find that in the beginning, it's nice to have your partner, but once you've got it, then you're just like, leave me alone. I need the quiet. I just need to do it. I would have to lock my bathroom door and be like, I'm good. And my husband and my best friend, who was actually an RN, they bruised me, but I never bruised myself. So I was like,
Yeah,
never again. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So how did you explain surrogacy to your kids? Because you have an older daughter who's a teenager and a baby, right? Basically at the time when you started, your youngest was a baby.
Yeah, she's two. She was already 2.5.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Yeah, she was already 2. I had to think about that. God, that's crazy that it was that long ago. Yeah, she was already 2.5, or 2, I guess. So, I mean, we didn't really explain anything to her. I mean, there were a few times where we'd be like we tell her that there's a baby in mama's tummy, but it's for someone else. Like it's someone else's baby. Like we just kept like saying that. And she like would kind of mention me, like the baby sometimes, but like not really. And then once I had the baby was gone. It was like, I mean, she didn't know anything else about it. And sometimes because I was able to see the baby after he was born, just because he was here, that he came over with the dad, and we'd be like, this is the baby that was in mommy's tummy. And like, yeah, she didn't care. She was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care. She doesn't really know any better or any different.
Yeah.
As far as McKenna goes, McKenna she was like, whatever. A typical teenage response.
Like, I'll be out of here soon anyway. I don't care.
Yeah. She's like, whatever you want to do. But she was very helpful though, which was kind of nice because obviously with appointments and things, she had to watch Brooklyn for me while I went. So it worked out. She was pretty supportive about it.
Yeah. What I was going to say is a lot of people don't expect how easy it is to explain it to your kids when they're that young and they're not really attached to the idea of motherhood and like keeping the baby you're cooking. So like for my kids, they just knew that mommies like cook babies in their tummy, whether they keep it for their own family or they give the baby to other parents. It's so much easier. And now they're just like, yeah, like she had a baby in her tummy, and they just talk about him like it's no big deal. Like, oh, remember when you had Grayson in your tummy? I'm like, I do remember that. And they just asked about him. They want to see pictures, but no one in my family has ever felt like we were missing something, and they never thought they were going to have siblings.
Yeah.
So that was a huge blessing, because I feel like if mine were maybe like 10, they would kind of be like, oh, but I wanted a little brother or something like that.
Yeah. It would be much different if they really like, if they really wanted that like attachment to a baby and they wanted, a sibling, especially if they want a sibling. Thankfully, Brooklyn has McKenna.
Yeah.
That's all kidding.
I know. I told them, I was like, I had you, and then I wanted to make sure you weren't an only child. So we had you, and then we were done. And we had told them that they would never get a sibling, even way before surrogacy. So
Yeah.
one was attached to that idea. But the next question, because a lot of people don't know about this, and they don't know how the matching process goes. But how
Mhm.
did you match with your intended parents? How did you find them? Did you know them beforehand, or were you strangers?
We were total strangers, which I feel like can be the case some of the time, especially with an agency. If you don't really have, if you're not going into it with people you already know, you're going to be matched with people you don't know, of course. So yeah, my couple was total strangers. They live in Australia, and the process was really fast, actually, even from start to end, like from him being born. So I applied in October, and Andrea matched me with my couple in Australia. God, I think it was like less than a month later. And then we did a FaceTime, and we just, that was it, because they tried matching me with one other gentleman, and he had concerns about me having had previous C-sections. So it just didn't work. So then they moved on to my couple, and it couldn't have worked out any better. They are fantastic, and it's almost like seeing like Kirk and I just in a different part of the world. Like, it was really crazy, like meeting them. And it was awesome. It was a great matching. It was a great pairing.
That's so awesome. Um, did you end up having a C-section this time?
Oh yes, I scheduled. Yes. Hmm.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, I don't really see the concern for C-sections. I mean, I get it, but like, if I was an intended parent, I would be like, well, at least I get to know when my baby's gonna come. And I'm guessing
Yeah.
that worked out for your intended parents after all, coming from Australia. There were no
Well,
surprises.
not really,
Oh,
because
wait.
Jaden arrived early. He actually came really early. I was supposed to have him at 39. We had a scheduled C-section at 39 weeks at the beginning of December,
Mhm.
and he arrived at 34 weeks at the end of October for no reason whatsoever, like just totally unknown reason.
Your body was just ready.
Yeah, I don't know if it was my body, or I think he was just ready. We joke, like, because he was his only embryo. Good Lord. He was their only embryo. So we had joked, because it was right in the beginning of COVID, that like just how everything worked out. Like, he was going to be here. He had to be here. I mean, he took right away. My test results and everything were fantastic from the start. And he actually arrived at 5 pounds, 13 ounces, which is quite large for a premature baby. So yeah, we
How
just
did
said
you
like,
carry to term?
yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe the dates were wrong or something.
Were they
Yeah,
able
I,
to get here in time though?
huh?
Were they able to get to Hawaii in time? I say here, I'm in Washington.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. So no, I went into labor in the afternoon at like 1:30 in the afternoon. I just went to the hospital like, hey, I'm having these cramps. I drove myself because Kirk was in Louisiana training, so he wasn't here, and it was just McKenna and Brooklyn. So McKenna stayed with Brooklyn, so I drove myself to the hospital, and they're like, hey, so we're gonna try and stop labor, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then like I swear it was like 10 minutes later. It was probably longer than that, but like next thing you know, they're like, hey, we're sending you in for a C-section. Like, we're going to have them. You're continuing to dilate. And I'm like, okay, go team. So Brianna was the only one there. The dad was not here yet. The mother was unable to fly here in general just because of health concerns. She just had a kidney transplant, so she couldn't travel anyway. But the dad was on the next flight out. So he arrived actually a day or two later.
Okay.
So yeah, Brianna was the only one I had.
Oh my gosh. See, that's one thing. I'm glad we have the coordinators because I like I'm like day night, okay? I'm an extrovert and I'm a social butterfly, but then when it comes to like serious stuff, I'm just like, what do I do? So like to have them be there for you and advocate for you and tell you like this is what we're going to do next, it feels so much better. So I'm glad you had her. But I would have cried. That sounds scary to go through all that by yourself and then not even have your husband like on the island.
Yeah. I, you know, I don't know. I've kind of just always been that person that I'm very, I'm extremely independent, especially when it comes to situations like that, where I'm kind of like, I mean, even with seeing doctors, I mean, just doing things like that, I'm kind of like, whatever, like, this isn't their first rodeo. Like, you know, like, this is what's happening. Like, this is what we're doing. As long as McKenna and Brooklyn are okay, of course, that's my main concern. I mean, I'm like, whatever, like I said, I'm pretty fly by the seat of my pants. So it's, I mean, it worked out as it is. And my mom actually, she took the next flight out. So Brianna texted her at like, it was the middle of the night. It was like 1:30 our time, 1:30 in the morning our time, I think, by the time I got to recovery. And my mom was on the next flight out at 8:30 in the morning, her time, and she's in Kentucky, 6 hours ahead. So I mean, it ended up working out anyway. She was here for McKenna in Brooklyn, and I just kind of hung out in the hospital until Kirk arrived. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of interesting, actually. It was kind of interesting.
Something I'm wondering about, and I know other people will be curious about, is who took care of the baby? And while you were waiting for the parents, did they have you watch over the baby in your room? Did they take the baby into the NICU or anything? Like, what happened with that?
So Jaden was actually taken to the NICU because he arrived so early. He didn't have any issues or anything like that, but just due to how early he was, it's just protocol for him to go there. And obviously they have to assess him, and he did need some breathing help. Nothing serious, I think, just like the little tubes in the nose. And he did need a little help with eating, but otherwise, yeah, so he was in the NICU. So I would go up and see him because I was pumping. I started pumping for him, which I had never done before. That was interesting to say the least. So yeah, so I would go up and see him. I'd go up and see him a couple times a day until his dad arrived. And then once his dad arrived, I'd still go up there and kind of hold him and hang out with him. But I had said from the beginning that because of COVID, that if anything, there's no way I was not going to bring that baby home with me in the event that the parents couldn't get here in time, because I don't know how that would have worked. But I can tell you, if it was me, I would not want my kid going into the system or being taken care of by people I don't know. And I was just so close with the mom and stuff that it just, I mean, it wouldn't have even been like a second thought. I mean, I totally would have brought him home if I had to.
And that's why you're the best person for this job, because like I tell people, a surrogate is someone who has love for the child, just like you would if you were a nanny, but you don't feel the urge to like keep them from their parents. Like, they would be happy knowing that, okay, our baby's with Ashley, our baby's completely fine. And once we get there, Ashley's not going to be like, well, this is my baby now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't imagine being like, no, I brought him home now and you're not taking him. Like, we signed up for this a long time ago. Like, there's no way I'm keeping a child.
Yeah, no, that's me too. And I'd always said from the beginning, you know, and I told Kirk that too, and my family and everybody who asks, like, you know, signing up to be a surrogate, it doesn't just stop once the baby's born. I mean, like, especially if you are still in contact with the parents and if you're still pumping for the child. I mean, it's not like, hey, you're a surrogate, the baby's here, that's it. Like, that's it. I mean, there's always that gray area where you're just, you know, unknown things can happen, aka COVID, aka people not being able to fly here from China and everywhere else, you know, over the world, and lockdowns and things happening. So you kind of just got to roll with it, and it is what it is. Yep. I think that's how people need to go into it.
Yeah, you have to be selfless in more ways than one. I've talked about how in the past some people don't want to breastfeed, or not breastfeed, but pump milk for the baby, which is fine. But to me, a surrogate should go into it thinking like, okay, if something happens and that baby needs breast milk, I'm not going to say no. You can do your journey however you want, but that was something that I was planning on doing. I'm like, yes, I will give breast milk as much as I can. And I even signed up on another case where they needed breast milk, and just the surrogate mother was like not in the position to give breast milk at the time. So I gave mine to them. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of look over that part, and it's not just about carrying the baby. There's so much selflessness that has to go into the whole journey.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was something Eileen and I had talked about, the mom and I had talked about before Jane was even born, was whether or not that was something I was going to do, because both my children were formula fed. I have honestly never really had an interest in breastfeeding. I was in high school when I had McKenna, and I was working in a pharmacy that you barely can take your 30-minute lunch when I had Brooklyn. So I was like, yeah, no, there's no breastfeeding here happening for my children. But I had told her if that's something she wanted, I had no problem like trying to figure it out. It's not rocket science, you know? And then once he came early, it was kind of a no brainer. Like it just made sense. And lucky for them, I'm an overproducer. So he had a substantial amount of breast milk the whole entire time he was here.
So you knew this ahead of time that you produced a lot of milk, even though you didn't use it for your daughters?
Yeah. Yeah, even though especially when I had Brooklyn and when you're like kind of trying to like dry up and do those things, you know,
The
because
cabbage leaves.
oh my gosh. Yeah, the cabbage leaves. Yeah, God. Yes, I was well aware that there was a lot going on here. So it just made sense to do that for Jaden when he, especially when he arrived early.
You're so lucky, because I know with me, it was so hard to pump for my son the first time. My daughter, it was fine because she breastfed. And I thought like maybe actually being on the nipple like brought my milk in. But this time it was easier because, like I said, I also gave my breast milk. But what a selfless thing for you to do, to never have breastfed your own kids, but still provide the breast milk for the surrogacy baby. Like, I've never heard of that before. And oh my God, I just want to say thank you for that. Okay, so let me see. I think we've already touched on a bunch of these. Oh, okay. Did you have any preferences when you were filling out the application for who you wanted to carry for? Did you want to carry for a single infertile woman? Did you want to carry for same-sex couples? Did you not care?
No, I did not. I didn't have a preference. The only thing that I really wanted to do was I wanted to make sure I helped a family who either had no children or one children. And I feel kind of bad saying that because of course, you know, if people want a bigger family and they can't have a bigger family, you know, they have to do what they have to do to have more children. But I felt like it was more important for me to help somebody who had no children, you know what I mean? Like, no, like they physically could have no children. Whereas, you know, a couple that approached me here actually on the island a few months ago, and they already have 4 children between the 2 of them. And they still wanted another one. And they had asked me if I'd be their surrogate. And now they hadn't even really started the process of applying or anything yet. So, it just timing wouldn't have worked out anyway. Yeah. But yeah, that's the only thing I really was quite adamant about, was that I just wanted to make sure that I was, you know, doing it for people who literally could not, they had no children at all.
Yeah, no, I understand. I wanted to do the same thing initially. I was like, oh, okay, I could help someone achieve their dream of finally having a child. And then when I started talking to Andrea a little bit more, I was like, wait, are we allowed to make requests? And I feel like a lot of people don't know that you can make requests if you want to, and you can kind of personalize your surrogacy journey. So that was the reason I was like, well, I consider myself an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. So can I carry for a couple in that community? And she was like, oh my God, of course. We have so many same-sex couples on the wait list. Like, if you want to do that, we can totally match you with someone. And I said, yeah, please. This would just make it that much better and more special to me. So we did the matching process, and I read through their profiles. The first couple that came up, I was just in tears as I read through their profile. And I'm like, yeah, I need to meet with them. And she's like, oh, they came and visited. You're going to love them. And of course, we had a long Skype call, and I fell in love. And I told them immediately, I want to carry their baby. So it was just, I feel like it's super easy for some of us. Not everyone is blessed to have the perfect match right away, but there is someone or a couple out there that is the right match for you. And when you know, you'll know. It's just like getting married. You'll know if the right one is there. What else? Let's see. Did your contract have any strict rules? I know some people are like, oh, don't they make you do all this crazy stuff if you're a surrogate, or you're not allowed to eat this or that? And with me, I didn't have any of that. I just had the standard, like follow your doctor's rules and don't eat any like raw fish, or what is it, like shellfish, and don't
Yeah.
dye your hair.
Yeah. No, so that's funny you mentioned that, because I was in a lot of, not a lot, but a couple like surrogate groups on Facebook, which it's kind of a scary place to be. I ended up like leaving them. Not a very healthy place to be, like going through this. But there were quite a few women who had said like, oh my gosh, like my parents want all these things and I can only eat this and I can't eat this and like all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean exactly? Like, they can tell you what you can and cannot eat. It was just, I mean, it was kind of a concern, I guess. But then like I said, after meeting my parents, the only thing they had asked me was if I had planned to travel within the year or whatever. And I said, if we go anywhere, it'll just be to the other islands, but we're not just big, like, I don't know. I like to travel, but I like to travel alone. like now that I've like a husband and stuff, we just don't do a whole lot of traveling yet. So I was like, no, not really. So my contract was pretty much straightforward like yours. The only thing they had in there was, I think after 28 weeks, I was not allowed to travel. And I
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard. I mean, unless they go in and change it, that's standard. And I remember messaging Andrea, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like right on the cusp. I'm so sorry I went to California. She's like, it's fine. It's fine. We just don't want you like in your final trimester, like right next to your due date traveling. But then also you had COVID, right? So it's not like you could really
Yeah.
go. Like you didn't have COVID. We had COVID going on. So it's not like you were able to go anywhere during your pregnancy like that.
Yeah, no. And now this time around though, like if it works out, which I don't know, it's not looking good to do it a second time for me at the current moment. Just given what happened with Jaden and having him so early. But if it does happen, if I am able to do it one more time this year, that is actually a problem we're going to run into, because my husband's PCS date is, or ARC or DROS or whatever you want to call it, is in July. And he just emailed back about a job that starts in North Carolina in May. So that is something that is a bridge I will cross if I am able to do this a second time on traveling, because depending on how everything works out, if it works out and I get pregnant, I will be traveling and moving during it.
I mean, hopefully everything dies down before then and we can all safely travel and you get intended parents who don't mind. Obviously, that's not really something you can negotiate. Just like you have to go. Like, I don't think people don't understand that PCSing is not something you can just say like, well, I can't. We literally tried to stay in Hawaii because of the pandemic, and they were like, no, the pandemic's not an excuse to stay. So during the holidays, we had to move to Washington. And I would have died if I was pregnant, because that was just, I don't want to cuss on here. But so how long have you been looking into becoming a surrogate again? Or is it recent, or what's that been like?
I knew right after having Jaden that I'd want to do it a second time. There was no real like thought or anything, or like, maybe I shouldn't I? Actually, that's not true. Actually, maybe for like a month, I was like, maybe I shouldn't, because I was kind of pumping, time consuming, and I was kind of like excited about being able to like go and walk places, not waddling, and being able to do things, like without a belly and like having to worry about being pregnant. And then after that, I was like, no, like I want to be able to do it one more time. The issue I'm running into right now is that after having Jaden, I don't know how long after like I had him, they did the C-section, everything was fine. And then I don't know if it was an hour or a couple hours, I had some hemorrhaging afterwards that were required. It required me to have a blood transfusion, but I think that's only because I get anemic when I'm pregnant. So I didn't have that for storage of blood anywhere. So I'm sure part of it. There is no reason for why I hemorrhaged either, not one that they put in my medical file. So now I'm having a hard time finding a clinic who is willing to work with me, now. So we're on, let's see, it's June. So we've been working on this since I think at the end of April, May was when I was at the 6-month mark to start like getting my medical records for this new journey, and figuring out what we're going to do. So it's been a few months now, and we're still working it to see if we can make it happen. I don't know. I don't know. I'm hoping to know something in the next few weeks.
It's those C-sections, man, because I was telling Andrea, like, I'm thinking about maybe doing another journey, but I don't know because of, like my teeth, they just get really, something goes on when I'm pregnant.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
I lose so much hair, and there's just like right now I'm still losing hair, and I gave birth January 2020. And she
Yeah.
was just like, honestly, I wouldn't want to put you and your body through that. She was like, it would be irresponsible of us to force you to do another C-section, because I've had 3 and
Yeah.
they're all kind of like right after the other. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, let's just leave it on a good note because I don't want any surprises. And it was such a good, like, surreal experience, like almost unheard of to have 3 parents in the OR with me.
Yeah.
Both dads and my husband recording by me, and then the dads just over there experiencing the birth and like having their skin to skin and doing all that. And I'm just like, man, I don't know. I don't think I want to risk it.
Yeah. I've had 3 C-sections too. And I don't know, like, I don't know. 4 is my max. I definitely would not do more than 4 if I had children the natural, like normal way, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would do more than 4, or not more than 4. Good Lord. More than like a couple surrogacies, just because, like I said, it's just so easy for me to be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily, this is going to sound really weird. I don't necessarily enjoy the whole part of pregnancy, only because, especially with Jaden, oh my gosh, every single pregnancy side effect outside of vomiting you could physically possibly imagine, including like carpal tunnel and everything. Like I had it all, like everything. Except for the weight gain, which is weird. I had high weight gain with my own 2 children and normal him, but had all these other side effects. So the act of being pregnant sometimes I don't really enjoy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. C-section, I mean, it is what it is. I've had so many surgeries that I feel like it's just, as long as I know about things ahead of time, there's things we can do to prevent things. I have a good doctor and a good like team and staff, I feel like it's just, the odds are good. And I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. That's the only reason I was like, maybe I could, just because I love being pregnant. Like, seeing if I would have only had my 2 kids in their C-sections and been asked, like, do you want to do a bunch of surrogacies if they're going to be C-sections? I'd be like, no. But seeing the recovery with the surrogacy versus the recovery from my 2 kids, I was like, that was one of the reasons I was like, okay, well, maybe, because it was so easy. I mean, I did have to pump and that was time consuming, but I signed up to do that. And other than that, I slept all day. I got to take my medications and just sleep, because they kind of like low-key gave my husband paternity leave, even though it wasn't his child.
Yeah,
he was like, I mean, she's gonna be recovering from surgery. She can't take care of our kids. So they're like, okay, whatever, just stay home for the 10 days. And yeah, it was like, I feel like I healed the fastest with the surrogacy baby than with my own kids.
Yeah, I would agree. And yeah, I would agree. And they gave Kirk paternity leave too. He got 21 days, although I think he only took I don't know if he took all 21. I don't know, actually. Like, I feel like the time went so fast. Like, even though I was pumping and stuff, like, yeah, like recovery, like I could just sit on the couch and I had to wake up early and just sit there and watch my show and like not have to do, like there's no crying baby. There's no waking up in the middle of the night. There's no like carrying a carrier around. Like, I just kicked it.
It was the best.
Yeah,
I didn't hang out in my living room, and I'll tell you why. Because I can't socialize with people while I'm recovering from C-section, because it hurts. Like, everyone makes me laugh, and I'm like, out. Like, I had to tell my husband something funny about my son and his teacher, and I was like, you promise not to laugh? And he was like, I promise. And then I started to tell him, and I saw him, and I was like, ow. I was like, I can't do this right now. You cannot make me laugh. Oh, it was
Yeah.
the most painful thing, but it was such an easy recovery. And it's, it was one for the books. Um, okay, so well, yeah, obviously there were surprises. Okay, did you and your intended parents decide on no contact or keeping contact after delivery? And how did it end up happening?
Um, there actually, we really didn't discuss, we didn't discuss any of that. So before, so was it, you pronounce her name Andrea? I was Andrea.
No, I
Thanks
say
so
Andrea. Andrea or Andrea. I don't know. Sometimes I swear she says it different every time. She's like, I don't even know how to pronounce it because my parents don't know how to pronounce it. And I know
Oh my,
Brianna says Andrea
yeah,
and Andrea, I swear she's pronounced it all the different ways. So just however she says.
yeah. So with Andrea, she that before she created Orchid, like I went through my journey before Orchid, so that wasn't something like there was no like serious profile like that. There was no like questions like that, like what kind of contact do you want to keep, like nothing. I mean, we didn't talk about any of that before like matching or wild matching or during the process. And we still talk. The mom and I talk probably every day, every other day. The sister and I, she's awesome. She actually did a psychic reading on me a few months ago, which was
No,
super dope.
I
She's
love
cool.
that stuff.
Yeah, her and I talk. Yeah, she was awesome. She was fantastic. It was the craziest thing I'd ever heard in my life. It was like somebody was creeping on me daily for my life. She's her and I talk pretty regularly too. And yeah, we keep in touch all the time. We always talk about how we're going to fly to Australia and go visit them. And she sends me pictures of Jaden and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
like I've known her forever. It's crazy. Her sister said that her and I we were meant to be because Eileen, she applied 6 years, or was it 6 years prior? I think she said. I think she had looked into Hawaii Surrogacy like years ago, like years before reactivating her profile.
Mhm.
She just had to activate her profile when I just happened to find Hawaii Surrogacy on the island. It was fated. We were fated to find each other.
It's funny how that works because I had a similar story with my intended parents. I had literally, I want to say the last week of September, inquired about it. And around that time, my intended parents had just gotten in contact with Hawaii Surrogacy because they were living in Australia at the time because they were trying to pursue surrogacy over there, but everything just kept falling through. So they had friends who did it in Hawaii, I believe, with Hawaii Surrogacy Center, and they had just spoken to them. So then when I made the request to have a same-sex couple, they were like, we have one that's like, looking into having a baby right now, and like they already have their embryos ready and stuff. So it worked out with them because they told me that it was like 10 years to the day that we did the embryo transfer, they had started to try and have a baby through surrogacy, but it had, everything had just like fallen apart multiple times with like 3 different surrogates. And I told them I was 16 when you guys started. Like, there's no
Yeah.
way in hell I could have done that. Oops, sorry. But I was like, there's no way I could have done this when you started. So like this was meant to be. And at the time when they did start and I was 16, I was in my own little high school bubble, but the movie Baby Mama had come out and I thought it was the funniest movie and I would always quote it, not thinking anything of it. And Andrea's gonna laugh at me because I always bring this up, but like that was my movie. Like I was foreshadowing this entire time and I didn't know it every single time I would quote it. Even like during my first pregnancy, I was like, this stuff's good. What's the street name for this? When they were giving me like the epidural. And I just found out, my husband said, babe, do you remember making that joke? And I was like, what do you mean? Like when we had Nixon, my first child? He was like, no, when he had the surrogacy baby, he was like, we were all in the OR. And he made that joke when they started giving your stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm ridiculous. But it's just funny how life has its plans for you that you would have never imagined.
Yeah, I agree. It's quite the journey. When you think about it, you think back like how everything just had to fall into place just right because we were supposed to be at Fort Polk in Louisiana for 3 years. And that's what I was telling Eileen and her sister, is that, you know, Kirk got an email randomly one day that said, hey, there's this, whatever, this position, you know, here in Hawaii, you're eligible for it, blah, blah, blah. Would you be interested? And he was already doing that job in Louisiana. And we're like, well, we hate Louisiana. Yes, you need to go. Like, there was no question. You need to go. We have to get out of here. Like, this place is awful. And yeah, like, it's crazy because we moved here in July of 2019, and I started,
Oh my gosh, right away.
I applied in October of 2019. Yeah, it was, yeah.
We had to extend for the surrogacy because I was supposed to leave at the end of 2019, December 2019.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the funny thing is, neither of us are from Hawaii. We didn't grow up there, nothing. So I never would have thought like, I would be a surrogate, like Hawaii Surrogacy Center. It all just had to happen. Like, I never planned on moving to Hawaii. This is not something I knew about until right before we came. So it's just, it's so beautiful. And to that, I want to say, if you're looking into surrogacy and things are going well, this is not a coincidence. Like, I feel like people who are destined to become surrogates are the ones that it's going to like fall in your lap.
Yeah.
So let's see. Okay. A lot of people ask about money. So I'm not gonna ask what you made, but did you receive a lump sum or did you receive it in payments? And was it difficult getting paid? Did you have to chase your payments around, or how did that go for you?
It was pretty, it was mostly smooth. Towards the end, there were a few times where like Brianna and Andrea and I had to kind of chase after the intended parents. They didn't, from what, I don't really know how that part of it works, as far as like putting money in and like dispersing and all that kind of stuff. But it seemed like they would like put money in and then they'd take money out, and then there like wouldn't be enough for like my payments to go through and like stuff like that. So they kind of had to chase them a little bit towards the end.
Yeah.
But nothing like serious. I mean, not like detriment. I mean, and not only that, but it's not like, you know, Kirk and I mean, it's not like we were relying on the money to survive either, you know? So it's like, okay, well, if payments are late, they're late. I mean, it's not like, you know, like, oh my God, we have bills to pay. This is my job, because that's not about, you know what I mean? Like, that's not how this, it's not how this works. It's
and
kind of,
you guys are making a living before surrogacy came into your life.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there was nothing we really like needed, you know, I mean, there's nothing that we needed from it. But other than that, yeah, it was just, it was monthly payments. They started the monthly payments, obviously, which I'm sure they did for you prior to being pregnant. And then once you're pregnant, those payments increase. And then eventually you'll have received a certain amount of money at the end, in total.
Yeah.
And then they covered all the hospital bills and all that kind of stuff, which was nice. So, yeah, but it was really easy. And what I liked about it too is I only had to submit, which I'm sure you had to too, that I really only had to submit like requests for like bill,
Oh,
like
I'm
payment.
gonna kill you because my entire surrogacy, I had to submit those. But
Really?
yeah, you came in when they started just doing the direct deposit, right?
Yeah, I only had to, like for the health insurance, I just had to, like, after so many months, I just had to submit saying I paid them all, just so they had a receipt. But like, it was automatic. That payment was automatic. The big monthly payment was automatic. All the payments were automatic except for like if I got a bill from the doctor, or I don't know, something I had to buy
Yeah.
for the whatever, or like clothing or whatever. Everything else was just automatic. I didn't have to do anything, and it was great because I forget about that stuff.
I do too. ADHD over here. If
Yeah.
I don't see it or do it right when it's tasked to me, I forget about it. And it's not even like me being irresponsible. It's just like my brain just forgets. So
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, oh, I hate you, because we had the paper. So I would have to like print the paper, fill it out, or just like fill it out on my phone and then send it and just like put in a folder all the ones that I've finished. It was a lot. And then she changed to direct deposit right after I had the baby. And I'm like, oh my God. She's like, yeah, it's so much easier than how you were doing it. I'm like, I'm glad to see everyone progressing at Hawaii Surrogacy, but I had to go through the trenches. Okay.
Yeah. 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 God. Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm an out of sight, out of mind person, for sure. And I have horrible ADD. Like it's really bad sometimes. And it's like, yeah, if I don't have a sticky note or written down somewhere or something, or if I don't, like you said, do it right away. Like for example, a good example is like after my transfer, you get paid the fee for the transfer fee. I
Yes.
literally in the hotel right after we got McDonald's on my iPad, like filling this out and signing it and sending it because I was like, dude, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to, I'm gonna forget.
Oh my gosh, I was like so afraid of losing checks. Like once I would receive it, because mine would come in the mail. And once
Oh
I
God.
would get them in the mail, I would have to like, hold on, everyone stop. And I just take my phone and do the mobile deposit, or I would lose a check. And I'm pretty sure it's happened a few times before, like in my house. I'm like, where'd that check go? But what else? Oh yeah. So I'm just, I'm glad. Like, so if anyone is looking into Hawaii surrogacy, just know you won't go through what I went through. It is so much easier, and there's a lot less on your plates now. That's kind of all taken care of. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, obviously there's no lump sum, and we do have financial counseling that's free for surrogates. So if you have like goals in mind, or just like you've never had a savings before, they'll help you decide what to do and how much to put in your savings. So that's something that people need to take advantage of when they're with Hawaii Surrogacy. We didn't have that when I was a surrogate, even though it wasn't that long ago, but it's just like we're moving fast over here and there are a lot of new services being added. So take advantage. Um, let's see. We already know this, but were you related to the child that you carried?
No. Nope. He was his own embryo. I did actually offer because he was the only embryo.
Yeah.
I did tell my intended parents that if in the event that the transfer didn't take, they could have used my eggs. I would have had no problem with that. And I have had people ask me before about that, like, well, how do you deal with that? Because technically it's like partly your kid and like all this stuff. And I'm like, no. Genetically, maybe, but obviously genetically, yes. Genetically, yes, half the baby would have been mine. However, there's no more babies for Ashley coming out of the body that I'm going to keep home with me. Like I'm done. It was like starting over with Brooklyn. And I don't know for people who have two children, I don't know if this is like you, but like McKenna was super easy. Yeah. Brooklyn is not super easy in the slightest. Like she's a good kid, but like she is attitude central. She does everything whenever she wants to do it, however she wants to do it. I'm like, yeah, no, this is it. Like, this is it for me. So, and I told them, that at least that way they know me. They can ask me any health questions they want. They can ask me any questions about like my medical history, my family history. So then they would know what they're working with, I guess. So I would have done it if it didn't take, but no, it took, and he was all theirs.
That's so amazing. I can't believe, like, surrogacy is one thing, but to be an egg donor, that is just a whole nother level. And I don't think people understand this when we talk about this. I'm like, I could be a surrogate all day because people be like, oh my God, I could never do it. I could never give up the baby. I'm like, yeah. It's egg donation that I could never do, because I would still be like, there's a baby out there that looks like me. Like, I don't like it, which it's kind of, it's weird, and you have to just like let go of that control. And yeah. I'm going to be honest, I could not do it, but I applaud anyone who has ever done it. And I personally feel like their compensation should be a lot closer to surrogates, because you are giving up a baby. That is a part of you, but I don't know. I just applaud you, because you could literally do anything and be like, yeah, I know it's not mine, but I got you.
I mean, it's what it is. I think if I wanted my own children, it'd probably be a little bit like my own more children. Maybe it would be a little bit different, but that's why I told like other people, like, if you have any interest, like you make sure like you're done having your own children. I feel like there's such a weird, like, I don't know, like I don't know. I feel like there needs to be a balance of either you're done, or you're kind of like we were kind of just like, yeah, it is what it is. Like you're 100% okay with it, because if you want your own children, like I feel like there's like a fine line, you know, to walk with that. And yeah, like with me not wanting, not wanting anymore, that's not even like a thought. That's not, I mean, Kirk and I even laughed about it because I'm like, listen, he's like, no, no
Yeah.
more kids. That's fine with me. Like,
That's us too. I think I wouldn't care until like I knew the baby was there, and I'd be like, damn. Oh, sorry for the cursing, but I would just be like, what if? But like me now, and even before I had the surrogacy, we were done. My tubes are tied. My husband has a vasectomy, and so
yeah,
I don't know. You know, I may get in trouble for saying the same thing, but like my advice to most people is don't do it unless you're set on not having any more kids. Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I think I'll do it, and then you know we'll have one more afterwards, and I'm like, you could possibly not be able to have any more children of your own afterwards. So
yeah,
you have to be like all in this. And I feel like people who are hoping for more kids of their own may not be all in when they hear about, you know, anything that could go wrong. So that's why I'm just like, you know what? If it's not for you right now, then just wait until all your kids are done.
yeah. I agree. I 100% agree with that.
Mhm. Let's see. I think I'm just gonna ask a few more because we're like at an hour now. Uh, oh, okay. Just two more. All right. So, if you were given the opportunity to do anything differently next time, would you do it differently, or is there anything you'd change about how you did surrogacy? Because I know this was obviously your first time, so you didn't know as much, but knowing what you know now, is there anything else that you would add or take away or just do differently?
Um, for the most part, no. It was, I mean, like you said, I didn't really know what to expect. And I only just heard from like, you know, you just read all this kind of stuff from other people, and it's always just other people, and they get in your head, and you're like, oh well, maybe maybe I should have asked for that, you know, like, and I had to stop doing that because that's not what I was going through. And now like wanting to do it a second time, there's really nothing. I mean, the process was so smooth for me. From start to end, there's really nothing I would change. The only two things that I have asked for differently this time was just, I feel like the C-section fee is a little low, given the fact that it's a very kind of serious surgery, and I'm going to have another one.
Um,
Um, so that's that, and then a medication start fee.
okay.
They're just, you know, some people get off like being able to get one in their stomach and one in their back, or like take more pills, or like, you know, there's just so many different protocols. And I have a friend doing IVF right now for herself.
Yeah.
And she give like the progesterone injection, but she gets to take like pills and things.
Yeah.
I had injections and a suppository, which is like a
See?
double whammy, like
And then
awful.
like you're going through underwear.
You're going through underwear, you're not sleeping with your spot. Like I was like, dude, no, sorry. TM. I was like, dude, like this is just real, like real life. Like, sorry, no, like that is not happening right now with this. Like, you're gonna have to wait. Like 10 weeks, you're gonna have to wait. But that's just reality, you know. So I feel like you know, thankfully he was understanding, but I was like, dude, I wish you could like I wish you could understand where I'm coming from at this point, because really like you just feel kind of gross all the time, and like
Oh my gosh. It's
you're,
just fluids. Just
yeah.
everything.
I,
And the blow, I don't know, like I tell everyone, the worst part for me, and the one thing that I'm like, no, I'm good, is the IVF part of it all. Man, that was just, and I look back at photos of myself, and I was just bloated, moon face,
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. And then once I was pregnant and I like did my announcement, I'm like cheekbones are sucked in, like pregnancy's looking good. But before the pregnancy, it was hard to hide because I'm like, people are over here thinking I'm just getting plump. And I'm like, I did not tell anyone outside like my immediate circle. And I told them I'm keeping it a secret until I can announce the pregnancy, because I didn't want to just like, be like, look at me, I'm gonna do this, and then nothing happens.
yeah.
So yeah, that was hard tied because you know your boobs are getting bigger. You're just you look like you're being pumped up with something.
Yeah, that's serious. I know it's serious. I gained 10 pounds just from the shots. And I had never lost all of my weight from Brooklyn anyway. So like every like 2 pounds, and I'm like, oh my God, I gained 2 pounds. when I gained 10 pounds from just the shots, I'm like, good God, here we go again. I'm going to be like this beached whale by the time he arrives. Like,
and you weren't, you looked like a normal person with just the little belly.
Yeah. Oh God. Well, I mean, oh man, I gained 80 pounds with Brooklyn. So I feel like, I mean, it can't get any worse than that. It can't get any.
I don't know if this is just like an old wives' tale, but they say that girls, they make you gain more weight. And personally, I felt like both of the boy pregnancies made me just like sucked up, like nice bone structure, and then just the cute little belly. And then with my daughter, I felt like I was kind of pregnant all over.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be, well, I have two girls. So outside of Jaden, I had two girls. So yeah, I gained 52 pounds with McKenna and 80 with Brooklyn. And that's what I felt both times. Like I am just round everywhere. So yeah, so that was the only other thing is probably something for that. That was.
No, that's understandable. I mean, IVF is hard, and I feel like that's something that's not really talked about when you talk about surrogacy, because we do go through IVF. It's not just surrogacy. Like you hear about IVF and you think of like moms and dads and like what they have to go through to like create their embryo, or even if they're not doing surrogacy. No, we go through what those parents go through without all the emotions, because we're not like heartbroken over not being able to conceive, but it's still a lot. And it caused a lot of arguments in my house, because my husband would be like, just stay still, or why do we have to do it this early in the morning? Like, I gotta go to work. And I'm like, please just do it. Like, once you're pregnant and the injections stop, smooth sailing.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, that's exactly how it was for sure. Because it was a rough few weeks there.
What I wanted to mention though is if you do become a surrogate again, because you're an experienced surrogate, there will also automatically be a higher base pay, which is what I want people to understand. So, I mean, you won't be suffering. Well, you'll still be suffering during that, but you can work around things a little bit. And the last question I had for you was, did you work for Hawaii Surrogacy Center before you became a surrogate? Were you asked to become a surrogate, or did you get this job after being a surrogate? Like, how did this job come about?
I got it after the fact. And I never actually thought, like, I obviously prior to going through this, like I never knew anything about like fertility, like we always joked around about me being like fertile Myrtle, it's like, it was nothing that I struggled with. I didn't really know anybody, especially like as a young adult, because I didn't have, are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, like low power. I didn't charge it last night, sorry. But I didn't, like in my 20s and stuff, like I did the typical like college 20-year-old life, so like, I don't know, it was just nothing I thought about. I didn't know anybody who was having fertility issues or anything, or at least that was like talked about. It wasn't like something I'd seen on Facebook or anything like that. So then after having Jaden, it kind of like came up when I was talking to my mom one day. I was like, God, it'd be something I'd really like to continue to work with, just because, I'm in school right now to get a bachelor's in healthcare admin, which I don't know if I'll like or I won't like, but I really like I've always been good at like paperwork and inventory types things, and like talking to people. I've been in customer service a long time, and seeing what people go through and how many couples and people and individuals and gay couples, have to go through who literally cannot have their own children. Mm-hmm. It was something that just seemed like a good fit for me, and for my life. And I had just asked Andrea one day, I told Brianna first, I was like, God, I said, it'd be kind of interesting, like, it'd be kind of cool to like work with these families, like actually work with the families, like, and being like what Brianna was to me. And she had mentioned it to Andrea once, and Andrea was like, yeah, I'd like to talk to her. And then randomly one day I emailed Andrea and I said, hey, this is kind of what I was thinking. And here we are.
And that's just like one little glimpse into the type of person Andrea is, because if she'll do anything, she's gonna make a position for you if she likes you. And I know she likes you because she's talked about you for like over a year to me, like when we were doing our little meetups and stuff, she was like, "Oh, you're gonna love her." And so it wasn't a surprise when she mentioned that you were working with us now. And I'm like, perfect. And because the same thing with me, a lot of people will say like, "Oh, you just supporting surrogacy because like that's your job." And I'm like, no, I was a surrogate, and because I would post my videos all over YouTube and Instagram and stuff, uh, the founder and director was like, "Hey, do you want to do like a little interview with us?" And for I think it was for High Now, and I was like, "Sure." And then we went to brunch afterwards, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we're not really like too active on Instagram or social media." And I was like, "Oh, if you just do this, this, this." And she's like, "Well, I could just create a position and you can do it for me." And I was like, "Okay." And so I've been with her ever since. And
Yeah.
it's just like, I just love the environment. Everyone's friendly. It's family. It's not fake. It's literally, it's so fun.
Yeah, and it's really relaxed. You can do it from your home. And that was the other thing too. That was a concern, of course, because like obviously you and me, we move often. And it's like I spent 5 years in a pharmacy and we moved here. And now because daycare's so high and everything else, I couldn't go back to working in a pharmacy, which I love to do. So it was important for me to do something I could do when we move here, because that's going to be the reality is eventually we're going to leave, and I don't need to be here to do it. To be, help be an ambassador and to do the intake work and stuff like that. So it worked out great.
Yeah, it's really, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's manageable. Like, cause I could not imagine going back to work. Like my daughter is starting kindergarten. And at first I was like, maybe I could try and like do out of the homework. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to rob her of what she's witnessed her brother get from me. Like
Yeah.
stay at home mom, like, I'm making your lunch and breakfast and going to I'm sorry, I'm like going to field trips. That's why I can think of it, because we haven't had field trips right now because of COVID. But I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm the one dropping off, picking up, and I don't want her to lose out on that. So I'm just so grateful that I get to like stay here and just, if I feel like I need to make more, get more responsibility from Andrea. And it's just been really beneficial to our family. I've been able to get my own vehicle because we were sharing a car before. So it's just,
Yeah.
it's done nothing but like add to my life and even like to my self-worth. Like I don't feel like I'm just not doing anything by being a stay-at-home mom anymore.
Yeah. Like, I feel you there 110%. We share a car here. We sold mine before we moved here. And in my whole, I don't know, adult and teenage life, I've never been without my own car. So it's been very interesting. It's been extra challenging because I don't get his car very often because he's extra busy here compared to other jobs he's had. So yeah, all around it's been challenging, and I've never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom either. Yeah, I went back to work after Brooklyn was born, and I had no intention of staying home. So, and I feel the same way. Like I feel like I have to be doing something, and I'm a busybody that if I don't, I feel like I do less. If I have like less things to do, I feel like I do nothing. Versus if I like have a chaotic like day, it's like, oh my God, I got so much done today. Versus if I have time to just hang out, I'm like, I did nothing. Like I didn't even do the laundry. Like I'm like, God, I did less than if I was totally busy. So it fit in perfect. And you're right, it gives some kind of sense of self-worth and I kind of have a little bit of a purpose. I'm not just sitting around doing nothing,
You're not just selling things to people. Like it's literally, it's something that you've done yourself, you care about. And it's just like, I would have had FOMO if I would have just been a surrogate and then I'm done. And I'm like, well, they don't want anything to do with me anymore.
Yeah. And I have a Sensi business, which is, obviously direct sales or whatever, which is a little bit different than other like things I know like some wives have done. And I really like it, and it keeps me busy too. And I go to school full time online.
Do it all.
Why I thought like, hey, let's just add on this extra thing. I don't know, but it's been a great fit. It's been a great fit, and I'm still learning quite a bit. There's definitely a lot to learn.
Oh yeah.
A lot. It's more challenging like than being like in person and somebody training you on the job, Yeah. So, but I like it. I really do like it. And I look forward to actually having like my own like case of families that I can see from like literally beginning to end to see
So you are an intake coordinator or a surrogate coordinator? Is that what you're going to be doing, like what Brianna does?
So I am so initially she had hired me to be a case manager and surrogate ambassador.
Okay.
And then Kendra, and now they've had so many people apply this month, the surrogates. And Kendra is not only, she's like the everybody intake manager, I think I got from that, or intake coordinator. So she was getting so bogged down with how much stuff she had on top of being a case manager that Andrea asked me if I would want to switch roles. So now I'm an intake coordinator and will be a case manager whenever there is a case for me to have. Yeah. So I'll be able to see the, which is great. I'm really excited to see like the surrogates like me start to the end. Cause it's different outside, you know, of course.
Okay.
And maybe even going through it myself a second time with, you know, I feel like I'll be able to relate. Like,
all right, I'll see you at our next appointment.
I know, right? Like, what time are you gonna be there? I'll be there at 8:30, you know?
Do it all at the same time.
I know.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and just having
no
a
problem.
chat. I forget that we're live. I just felt like I was FaceTiming with someone about this.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And thank you to anyone who's watching this. If you want to follow Ashley online, do you have an Instagram page that you want random people to follow you on? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's just Ashley and Bolger, my name or whatever. Ashley and Bolger on Instagram. Yeah, everybody can follow me if they want.
Okay, so the one I tag you on our Instagram from, is that the one is fine? Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, so you can follow Ashley and you can see if she actually does go through with having another surrogacy journey, or just see what she does with Hawaii Surrogacy Center. You can follow me at Prizzilla, Prizzilla. I'm sure you've seen me tagged on the page because I'm really the only one who posts anything. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.